Hey everybody, it's Rob from Revelation Rain. I should have done this video yesterday, but it was extremely busy yesterday. I had a wedding yesterday, which was Saturday the 26th, and today's Sunday the 27th of June, and I'm getting ready to go do another wedding. But yesterday, the 26th, exactly 1 year ago from yesterday, was the day that Marti auditioned for Revelation Rain. Now, in the previous video, I talked about how we came across JT. The story is kind of similar with Marti. After we, meaning Grant and I, offered the position to JT and he accepted, the next logical step was to find a bass player. So again, I returned to Band Mix and was looking through the thousands, it seemed like, of bass players, just trying to find the right person, trying to find somebody that at least had some of the same influences that we have. And I came across a guy who had a big, long beard, okay? And was wearing some kind of a hat, almost like those French beret type hats, I think, if I remember right. And I don't know. At first, visually, it didn't. He didn't seem to strike me as someone who would fit in, and that may sound shallow, but it really isn't. Image is just important as anything else in a band, my opinion, and the opinion of others. But a lot of the bands that I looked up to, they had a unique image. Kiss or Stryper or Quiet Riot or Motley Crue. They looked like they belonged to the same band, and they had an image. They didn't go up on stage, excuse me, looking like they just rolled out of bed. They just didn't do that. And I remember Gene Simmons telling a story one time when they were putting Kiss together back in '73, and they were looking for a lead guitar player. And this black guy had come in and played phenomenally. It was just an excellent guitar player, had the sound they wanted. But Gene and Paul ultimately decided that although this guy was great, he couldn't be in the band. Now, not because he was black, but because the image they were going for wouldn't allow for somebody that looked that differently from Gene and Paul to be in the band. And when they told the guitar player that, the guitar player agreed. And he said, you know, that makes sense. If the Temptations needed to find a new singer, they would not go with a white guy. It would ruin the image. And that's not a racist statement, but the Temptations, great Motown band, it would look odd if there was a white guy in the band. Okay? And the same thing with Kiss, and the same thing with Revelation Rain. The idea of having a guy that looked like he belonged in ZZ Top being in Revelation Rain initially didn't set well with me. I'm just being honest. But then I got to thinking, you know, we can create our own image. We don't need to have a predisposed notion of what this image is supposed to be. We can work with anything, just about. And so I put that aside and I started reading his profile. And what grabbed me was he said that he played bass. He said, I play bass guitar in the style of Geezer Butler and Geddy Lee. And that was it. I said, that's it. That's our guy. So I called Marti, and we talked on the phone. And, you know, his musical background was quite different than where, say, Grant and JT and I come from. Marti's more into a lot of the progressive type bands. Not all, but some. So, and if you listen to any of our records, you know, the songs that Marti brings in, they're very progressive sounding. That's his influences. Anyway, so we talked, and we seemed to have a lot of the same interests and goals musically. Okay, I hadn't talked to him yet about what we were going for visually. I didn't, because I thought if I explained this to him over the phone, it's going to scare him off. So I kept that under my hat. We arranged to meet the next coming Friday, which would have been exactly 1 week after we auditioned JT. So it's Friday, June 26th. And here's the funny thing. I did not tell Grant what Marty looked like. I considered it. I wanted to, give him a heads up, like, don't be put off. He's got this beard, ZZ Top, whatever. Um, and so, and then I thought, no, this would be great. I'm just going to let the guys show up at Grant's house and let Grant kind of work it out for himself. And I wish I would have been there when Marty arrived, but Marty, notoriously, was about 4 hours early. Okay. We rehearsed at 6. I think Marty got there at noon, something like that. I don't know. So anyway, Marty got there before I did, but when I rolled up and I saw that Marty was there talking to Grant, I was laughing inside because I thought, I can only imagine what Grant was thinking. And later on, Grant would say something like, he thought Mick Fleetwood had showed up at his house, which is funny. So anyway, I get there, and then JT rolls up, and I didn't tell JT either what Marty looked like. So I think everybody was just kind of like, not that JT, Grant, and I look exactly the same, but there's a cohesive look. Like, we have no hair here, but we have hair here. Okay? And so that's the three of us. And then Marty, he has long hair, and then the big beard, and but we thought, it's not just about visuals. We can work with this. We can work with anything. We can make this work and still look like a band. So we go down into the Revelation Rain lair. I think that's what Grant calls it. And a rehearsal spot. And it was like deja vu, because I'd given Marty 3 songs to learn. So we run through those 3 songs and he nails it. And we're like, this cannot be happening. Somebody's playing a trick on us, okay? How is it that we got this blessed that 2 weeks in a row, guys have come in and nailed the audition? And then, to take it a step further, just like with JT, Marty says, well, what about this other song that you guys have? And he starts playing one of our other songs. So we're like, wow, this guy's done his homework. So we ended up running through, again, 5 or 6 songs. And I'd only given him 3 to learn. So that showed the initiative. That showed that he was at least into what we were doing. Because, like I said, Marty's songs and his background is much more progressive. And Marty's songs are a lot more detailed and I would say almost complex, maybe. And at this point, we were doing songs that I brought in. This was before JT and Marty would later bring in their own material. And I'm thinking to myself, man, my songs are pretty straightforward. I mean, I grew up on Kiss, Quiet Riot, Motley Crue, Stryper. Nothing real progressive. Not Rush, not Dream Theater, nothing like that. Pretty basic, 4 or 5, maybe 6 chord songs if I'm really pushing it, okay? And I thought, this guy is way beyond us. He's not going to want to join this band. He's not going to want to play a song like Tears on the Wall, which has, I think, 4 chords. This guy's probably accustomed to playing, Beethoven on his bass or something. I don't know. But Marty kind of seemed hesitant. I remember him saying, it's really loud. and I was like, yeah, Marty, it's rock and roll. It's supposed to be. But he decided to give it a shot. And once he was in, and he said that he was into the songs, into the music, and he could do this, then we threw the visuals at him. And that's when we told him, look, we want to look like a band. We're going to have, a color theme. We're going to look like a band, And, we're not going to show up on stage wearing shorts and a Hawaiian shirt or anything like that. We're going to look like a band, black, leather. And, at that point, we'd already kind of started to fall into the red and black color scheme. So that was already starting to come together. And I think Marty was thrown a little bit. He kind of scratched his head and then said, yeah, okay, I can do that. And so we knew we had our bass player. We asked him if he was going to join, and he said yes. And I think all 3 of us thought, he's saying yes, but we don't know if he's really going to show up next week. But he did, and thank God, because Marty's a phenomenal bass player and an excellent songwriter and a great vocalist. And what's funny is that when we first brought Marty in, and we asked him, well, do you sing? He said, well, I might be able to chime in a little bit on backing vocals, but that's it. And we're like, okay, that's fine. And I said, well, Marty, do you write songs? Do you have some songs you could bring in? Well, not really. I mean, I got some stuff that I used to play in another band, but it's kind of progressive. It might not fit with what you guys are doing. Well, we asked him to play one for us anyway, and I don't remember what the name of the song was back then, but it had completely different lyrics, different title, and he ended up playing it for us, and it was good, and the music was great, and yes, it was a little more progressive, but we knew we could work with it, and I think it was JT who was able to take what Marty had and put a metal Revelation Rain spin on it, so that it wasn't so much of a Dream Theater sound anymore. It was more of a Revelation Rain, or if you can imagine Kiss doing Dream Theater. Okay, so it kind of became that, and that became Marty asked me to write new lyrics to it. That became Night Falls Fast. So we're bringing new songs in. JT had a song that he was doing with a previous band, and I think he had said, and excuse me, JT, if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure JT said that he could bring the music, that was his, but the lyrics were somebody else's. So he couldn't bring that. So he asked me to write new lyrics for it, and that's what became Bloody Thumbs. Now, these songs were so good, the songs that Marty and JT were bringing in, that we took two of my tracks that because Grant and I had already had an idea of what the 10 songs would be for our debut record. But the songs that Marty and JT brought in were so good, we took two of mine off and put theirs on there. And I think it made it a better record and more well-rounded and better, representative of all four of us. So it speaks volumes when somebody can bring great material to the band, so much so that you're willing to take your own material off to bring theirs in. And that's how good their stuff was. We weren't trying to appease them like, well, we better give them each a song. It wasn't like that. If their songs would have sucked, we would have said so. And hopefully they would have said the same about what we had. That's kind of what we do. So anyway, that's how we got Marty in the band. I think I'll make another video after this just to kind of wrap everything up and kind of bring it from this point, June 26th of 1 year ago, up to where we are right now. But that's the story of how Marty came into the band. And I was saying how he had said that he didn't write songs and he wasn't comfortable singing. And I'm going to kind of give a spoiler. It's funny that Marty said that, because he ended up writing, like I said, he brought that song that became Night Falls Fast for our first album. And for this new record that we just did a couple of months ago, Day of the Lord, Marty's got 2 or 3 songs on there that he wrote. I think I wrote lyrics for them, but Marty wrote the music, brought the arrangements and everything else. They're his songs. So it's just funny that, he was hesitant about saying, yeah, I write songs. And then he, brings 3 or 4 songs for our second album. And secondly, he did end up singing a lot of the background vocals on our first album, but on this new record, Marty's singing lead on a song that JT wrote the music for, I wrote the lyrics for. It's called Splitting Hairs, Splitting Atoms. And it's funny because when we were trying to determine who would sing that song, Marty was adamantly opposed to even singing one verse of it. Because what we were going to do is each one of us would sing one verse of the song. And I kind of wanted to back out of that because I wanted to not even be on the song vocally, except for on backing vocals, because it'd give me a nice break during the set list when we play live. And Grant wasn't entirely comfortable with learning the vocal at that point. That's something that he still wants to do, and I know he can do it. It's just one of those things where it just takes time. So he wasn't ready for it then. And JT didn't want to sing the lead by himself, or even much at all either, because I don't remember why. And I don't question it. Okay. So it's funny because then Marty said, well, I'll sing it and I'll give it a try. And now he nailed it. He nailed it. Now it's his song. I mean, he sings lead on it. It's great. So never, ever underestimate yourself. That's the lesson to be learned there. Like I said, Grant, from the very beginning, when we put this band together, we had a definite sound that we wanted, definite image, stage presentation, all of it. Grant and I had laid that all out, and we got blessed twice. When JT joined the band, and then when Marti joined the band. And it's just been phenomenal ever since then. And we said from the very beginning, so long as we keep Christ at the center of this thing, it will go well. The minute we neglect or forget or push Christ aside, this band will fall apart. Absolutely. And deserves to. Would deserve to. So anyway, Grant has done a lot of the backing vocals, has a couple of lead vocal lines on a couple of songs. And I understand that playing drums and singing is probably a lot more complicated than playing a guitar and singing. Now, I don't know that for a fact because I don't play drums. But I do know that my good buddy Grant, when he really wants to, when he's ready, he will step up and you will hear Grant doing lead vocals. Because I know he can do it. Phenomenal drummer, great vocalist. It's just bringing the two together. He can do it. And that's what we wanted from the start, was a band where it was like Gene and Paul always said, Kiss was a four-wheel drive band, and that's what Revelation Rain is. Everybody writes, everybody sings, everybody plays their own instrument. It's each person is 25% of the band, and it's great. So anyway, that's encapsulated how Grant and I put Revelation Rain together, how we got JT and how we got Marti. Like I said, the next video, we'll take it from June 26th of 2020 and bring it up to present day. All right, everybody, take care and God bless.